Morning. Trying a new angle today. Unfortunately, you can't see very deep into the oven, but you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So. Beauty of women in a wise heart's words, and men-at-arms and their nobility, the colloquies of love, the songs of birds, and handsome ships on the fast-running sea, the calmness of air as daybreak looms, and white snow falling on a windless day, a flowing brook, a meadow full of blooms, silver and gold and lapis in array. Hello. Yeah, they're bagels. Yeah, there's 2 batches in the oven now. I'm gonna run across the street and grab a cold brew, and I'll be back in a minute. Holy, there's a lineup. The lineup has begun. There's a Starbucks across the street, if you're wondering what I'm talking about. I should be fine, I think. You guys can watch my bagels for me. We got a batch on the board, and then we got a batch in the middle of the oven there. I'll be back in a minute. Hamlin towns in Brunswick, my famous Hanover city. The river Weser, deep and wide, washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you've never spied. But when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. Rats, they fought the dogs and killed the cats, and bit the babies in the cradles, and ate the cheeses from the vats, and licked the soup from the cook's own ladles, split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests of the men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning out their speaking, shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. Alas, people in a body to the town hall came flocking. "'Tis clear," cried they, "our mayor is a naughty, and as for our corporation, shocking, to think we buy gowns lined with ermine, for dolts who can't or won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin. You hope because you're old and obese to find in the furry civic robes ease. Rouse up, sirs, give your brains a racking, to find the remedy we are lacking, for sure as fate will send you packing." At this the mayor and corporation quaked with a mighty consternation. An hour they sat in council. At length the mayor broke silence. "For a guilder eyed my ermine gown sell. I wish I were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brain. I'm sure my poor head aches again. I scratch it so, but all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap." Just as he said this, what should hap? At the chamber door but a gentle tap. "Bless us," cried the mayor, "what's that?" With the corporation as he sat, looking little through wondrous fat. Nor brighter were his eyes, nor moister than a too long opened oyster, save when at noon his paunch grew mutinous for a plate of turtle green and glutinous. Only a scraping of shoes on a mat, anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat. "Come in," cried the mayor, looking bigger, and in did come the strangest figure. His long queer coat from heel to head was half yellow and half red, and he himself was tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes each like a pin, and light loose hair and swarthy skin, nor tuft of hair on cheek nor beard on chin, but lips with smile went out and in. There was no guessing his kith or kin, and nobody could enough admire this tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, "It's as my great-grandsire, starting up at the trump of doom's tone, had walked this way from his painted tombstone." He advanced towards the council table, and "Please, your honor," said he, "I am able, by means of secret charm to draw all the creatures living beneath the sun, that crawl or swim or fly or run, after me so as you never saw. And I chiefly use my charm on creatures that do people harm, mole and toad and newt and viper. People call me the Pied Piper." And here they notice round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe to match with his coat of self-same check. And at scarf's end hung a pipe, and his fingers they noticed were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing upon this pipe, as low it dangled over his vesture sole fangled. "Yes," said he, "Pied Piper as I am, in Tartaria bred the camp, last June from his huge swarms of gnats. I ease in Asia than I am, the monsters brewed vampire bats. And as for what your brain bewilders, if I rid your town of rats, will you give me 1,000 guilders?" 50,000 was the exclamation of astonished mayor and corporation. Into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe the while. Like a musical adept, blow his pipe, his lips had wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes of pipe uttered, he heard as if an army muttered, and muttering grew to a grumbling, and grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses came the rats tumbling. Great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, grave old plotters, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, all the Pied Pipe before their lives. Street to street, piped advancing, and step to step they followed dancing, till they came to the river Weser, wherein all plunged and perished, save one who stout as Julius Caesar, swam across and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished, to Ratland home his commentary, which was, at first shrill notes of the pipe, I heard a sound as a scraping tripe, and putting apples wondrous ripe, into the cider presses gripe, and the moving away of pickle tub boards, and leaving a jar of conserve cupboards, the drawing the cork to train oil flasks, the drinking each the butter casks. It seemed as if a voice, sweeter far than by harp or by psaltery, breathed, called out, "Oh, rats, rejoice. The world is drawn to a vast grey saltery. Some munch on, crunch on, take your lunch on. Breakfast, supper, dinner, lunch on. And just a bulky sugar punch on. Already stayed like a great sun shone. Gracious scarce an inch before me. Just me thought it said come for me. I found the Wester rolling over me. You should have heard the Hamlin people ring the bells, they rock the steeple. Go, cried the mayor, get long poles, poke out the nest and block up the holes. Consult with carpenters and builders, and leave in our town not even a trace of the rats. When suddenly up the face of the piper perked in the marketplace. The first, if you please, my 1,000 guilders. 1,000 guilders. The mayor looked blue, so did the corporation too. For council dares made rare havoc with Claret, Moselle, Vin de Grave, Hawk, and half the money would replenish their cellar's biggest butt of Rhenish to pay the sum to a wondering fellow with gypsy coat of red and yellow. Besides, quoth the mayor with a knowing wink, our business is done at the river's brink. We saw with their eyes vermin sink, and what's dead can't come to life, I think. So, friend, we're not folks to shrink from our duty of giving you something to drink, and a matter of money to put in your poke. But as for the guilders, what we spoke of them, as you well know, wasn't joke. Besides, the losses have made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come, take 50. The piper's face fell and he cried, no trifling, I can't wait beside. I've promised a visit by dinner time, Baghdad, and accept the prime, the head cook's pottage, all he's rich in, for having left in the caliph's kitchen of a nest of scorpions no survivor. With him I prove no bargain driver, with you don't think I'll bait a stiver, and folks who put me in a passion may find me pipe after another fashion. How, cried the mayor, do you think I brook, being worse treated than a cook, insulted by a ribald, with idle pipe and vesture piebald? Threaten us, fellow, do your worst, blow your pipe there till you burst. Once more he stepped into the street, and to his lips again laid his long pipe and smooth straight cane. There he blew 3 notes, such sweet soft notes as the musician's cunning never gave the enraptured air. There was a rustling, it seemed like a bustling, a merry crowd adjusting and pitching and hustling. Small feet were pattering, wooden shoes clattering, little hands clapping, and little tongues chattering, and like foals in the farmyard and barley is scattering. Out came the children running, all the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls, tripping and skipping ran merrily after. Wonderful music was shouting and laughter. The mayor was dumb, and the council stood, as if they're changed into blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry, to the children merrily skipping by. Could only follow with an eye that joyous crowd at the piper's back, and how the mayor was on the rack. The wretched council's bosoms beat, as the piper returned from the high street, to where the western rolled its waters, bright the way of their sons and daughters. Power returned from south to west, over a hill his steps addressed, and after him the children pressed. Great was the joy in every breast. He never crossed the mighty top, he's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop. When lo, they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if the cavern was suddenly hollowed. The piper advanced, and the children followed. When all were in to the very last, the door in the mountainside shut fast. Did I say all? No, one was lame, and could not dance the whole of the way. And in after years, if you'd blame his sadness, you used to say, as dull in our town since my playmates left, I can't forget that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me, for he led, as he said, to a joyous land, joining the town in jest at hand, where waters gushed and fruit trees grew, flowers were forth a fairer hue, and everything was strange and new. The sparrow was bred a peacock here, your dogs outran our fellow deer, and honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings, and just as I became assured, my lame foot would be speedily cured. The music stopped, and I stood still, and found myself outside the hill, left behind against my will, to go now limping as before, to never hear of that country more. Alas, alas, Camelin, that came into many a burgher's pate, a text which says at heaven's gate, opes the rich at his easy rate, as a needle's eye takes a camel in. The mayor sent east, west, north, and south, to offer the piper by word of mouth, wherever it was men's lot to find him, silver and gold to his heart's content, if only he returned the way he went, and bring the children behind him. But when they saw it was lost endeavor, and piper and dancing were gone forever, they made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly, if after the day of the month and year, these words do not as well appear. And so long after what happened here, on the 22nd of July, 1376, and the better memory to fix, the place of the children's last retreat. They called it the Pied Piper Street, where anyone playing pipe or tabor was sure for his future lose his labor. Nor suffered they hospital or tavern, shocked with mirth the streets of solemn. And opposite the place of the cavern, they wrote the story on a column, and on great church window painted, the same to make the world acquainted, how their children were stolen away. And there it stands this very day. And I must not admit to say, in Transylvania there is a tribe of alien people who ascribe the way and dress of which their neighbors lay such stress to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterranean prison into which they were Japan a long time ago in a mighty band out of Hamlin towns in Brunswick land, but how or why they don't understand. So Lily, let me and you be wipers of scores out with all men, especially pipers. And if they should pipe us free from rats or from mice, if we promise them aught, let us keep our promise. There once was a young man named Roland Pine who played the recorder when he wasn't baking bagels. One day he was walking through a park and playing his recorder to rest a while from all his baking when suddenly he spied a corpse lying on the ground beneath a swarm of flies. He walked over the corpse, shooed the flies away, and covered the dead man with stones. Returning to his oven later that day, he found that his oven blade had gone on by itself and already baked half the bagels he needed. From that day on, Roland Pine was the happiest baker alive. He'd bake until he was tired, then he'd pull his recorder out of his pocket while his oven blade went on by itself. But Roland Pine lived in a town whose mayor did not admire his skill and was jealous of his fame. So the mayor devised a plan to rid the town of Roland. In the beginning, he said that Roland was a good worker, but lazy. Next, he said that Roland baked a whole lot, but badly. Then he accused Roland of being a sorcerer, and the people turned on him. Therefore, Roland Pine took his recorder and left his home behind. When Roland Pine came to a neighboring town, he went to all the business owners, but none of them would give him any work. Finally, he met an old busker and asked him for work to keep body and mind together. "Come along with me," said the old man, "and we will share alms." So Roland Pine and the old man started going around and singing, "Baker, why do you bear those silent things? Baker, how did you forget to stand where your feet are? Baker, no woman loves your wealth, although it is gold and good for her health. Baker, you are too dirty for a lover to wish to cream. Your limbs are the knots and cords an old-fashioned machine. Baker, line the rings and bash the boards. You don't need their applause for a thing that is yours. You are a baker and are what you are, not by a miracle, but by the work of your arms. Baker, be who you are." Everybody gave alms to the old man, but to Roland they said, "What is a young man like you out begging? Why don't you work for a living?" "Nobody will hire me," replied Roland Pine. "That's what you say. There's a king with so many hungry soldiers that he'll pay good wages to anyone willing to feed them." So Roland Pine went to the king's kitchen and took the old man whose alms he'd been sharing. The oven had never been used by anyone. Roland mixed the dough, then he rolled it into rings, then he boiled them, dressed them with seeds, and baked them until they're golden brown. Then he tossed them into a crate to cool down. Whenever Roland wearied of baking, he would play his recorder, and once he was weary of playing his recorder, he would sing, "Baker, why do you bear those silent things? Baker, how did you forget to stand where your feet are? Baker, no woman loves your wealth, although it is gold and good for her health. Baker, you are too dirty for a lover to wish to preen. Your limbs are the knots, cords, an old-fashioned machine. Baker, line the rings and bash the boards. You don't need their applause for a thing that is yours. You are a baker and are what you are, not by a miracle, but by the work of your arms. Baker, be who you are." Hearing the singing, a princess looked out the window. She saw Roland Pine and fell in love with him. But she was a princess, and he a baker, The king would never consent to their marriage. So they decided to run away together. They fled at night in a boat. When they were already on the high seas, Roland remembered the busker. He said to his beloved, "We must fetch the old man. Since he shared his alms with me, we can't go off and leave him like that." At that very moment, the old man came up behind the boat, walking on the water as though it had been dry land. Reaching the boat, he said, "We agreed to divide everything we had, and I shared everything I owned. Now you have the king's daughter. You must give half of her to me." At this, he gave Roland Pide a knife to cut his bride in two. Roland Pide took the knife with a trembling hand. "You are right," he said. "You are perfectly right." He was on the point of cutting his bride in two when suddenly the old man stopped him. "Stop. I knew you were a just man. I am the dead man, mind you, whom you covered with stones. Go now, and may the two of you always be happy." At this, the old man walked away on the waves. The boat came to an island rich in all good things, with a princely palace awaiting the newlyweds. The end. Morning. I have 3 batches in the oven and 1 in the crate. And I'm about to put another batch in the oven, or into the pot, I mean. Sorry. Oh, the story? Yeah, thank you. It's a story based on an Italian folktale. I made some modifications to it. I changed the protagonist's name to Roland Pide, and what else did I change? Yeah. I changed the occupation of the protagonist to a baker from I think it was a farmer in the original. A tiller of the fields, whatever that is. Sounds pretty anachronistic. I don't think people till fields anymore as well. They do, but they do it with giant machines. Soon robots will be doing it, so there's that too. Yeah, so I'm baking bagels. knows? Maybe one day robots will be doing this. A bagel maker 3000. Boston Dynamics should get working on that. Bagel maker 3000. So those ones there are everything bagels. These ones, this is a sesame bagel. These ones are multigrain here. They're delicious. No, there's no cheese on them. Cheese in this oven is not a good thing because sort of cheese. If you put cheese in a bagel, it'll pick up all the way that we bake them. It picks all the bird seeds off the deck. Yeah. So we've tried that before. Although I imagine it can be done if you have if a baker did it carefully, it can be done. The reason why there's a hole in a bagel is so that it bakes a little bit faster. It's because so that when you're baking when you you just create, it also increases the surface area. So that if you just put a big glob of dough in there, it wouldn't, it would take a lot longer to bake. Whereas with a bagel, because the center the hot air can go in the center. It can sort of bake the center, so they bake faster than a bun would bake, and you get more crust. That's the point of a bagel, is to have lots of crust. Yeah, it's all about the crust. If you're the kind of person that cuts the crust off of bread, I don't think you're gonna like bagels very much. Because to me, a bagel is all about crust. That's where the flavor is. The crust is where the Maillard reaction occurs. That's where the sugars and the amino acids fuse, and they create flavor. The Maillard reaction, and that's the point of. That's the point of the crust. That the crust is where flavor is, you know. And the crumb is where texture exists. I think of a bagel as sort of a baked hard candy, or like a Smartie. You want a Smartie has a hard shell, like a crisp, crunchy shell, and then it has like a nice dense chocolatey center. Sort of the same thing with a bagel. You get like a nice candy coating shell on there, and then you got a nice dense nice dense crumb of filling. These are Canadian style bagels, or also known as Montreal style bagels. But I like to say Canadian because obviously it's not just Montrealers that are making these bagels. Canadian style bagels. Doing the Canadian style bagel. Mashed potatoes. Oh, cool. Oh. Hey, that's a really good idea. Mashed potatoes. I've thought about making a yam bagel. Like mixing yams into the bagel dough. I think that'd make a really good. You could probably avoid adding sugar to the dough. And it would add a lot of fiber and nutrients to the dough. There's a lot of things you can do that we're not doing that we should be doing, but whatever. Maybe one day, maybe one day I'll own my own bagel company and I can do whatever I want, right? One day I could dream of making a yam bagel, or a bagel with turmeric and beet juice, and I'll call it a gypsy coat. That's what the Pied Piper wears. The Pied Piper wears a gypsy coat. I want to make a yam bagel though. I think that would taste really good. I'll call it a yamby. A yamby bagel. Because there's a street in Vancouver called the Cambie Street, and I'd call it the yamby bagel. Yeah. So there's that. You want to know details of my imagination. My first thought was he lied in every word, that hoary cripple with malicious eye, askance to watch the working of his lie on mine, and most scarce able to afford suppression of the glee, the person scored its edge at one more victim gained thereby. What else should he be set for with his staff? What saved Whaley with his lies a snare, all travelers who might find him posted there? And asked the road, I guessed what skull-like laugh would break, what crutch could write my epitaph or pastime in the dusty thoroughfare. If at his counsel I should turn aside into ominous track to all agree hides the dark tower, it acquiesced and I did turn as he pointed, neither pride nor hope were kindling at the end descried, so much as gladness some end might be. For what with my whole world wide wondering, what with my search drawn out through years, my hope dwindled into a ghost not fit to cope with that obstreperous joy success would bring. I hardly tried now to rebuke the spring my heart made, finding failure in its scope. As a sick man very near to death seems dead indeed, and feels begin and end the tears, and takes the farewell of each friend, and hears one bid the other go, draw breath freely outside, since all is over, he saith, and the blow full and no grieving can amend. While some discuss if near other graves be room enough for this, and when the day suits best for carrying the corpse away, with caribou banners, scarfs, and staves, and still the man hears all and only craves, may not shame such tender love and stay. Thus I had for so long suffered in this quest, heard failure prophesied so oft being writ, so many times among the band of wit, the knights who to dark powers search and dress their steps, the just fail as they seem best, and all doubt was now should I be fit. So quiet as despair I turned from him, that hateful cripple, out of his highway into the path he pointed, all the day of being a dreary one at best, and dim was settling into its close, yet shot one grim red near to see the plain catch its astray. For mark, no sooner was I fairly found, pledged the plain after a pace or two, and pausing for back for the last few, over the safe road 'twas gone, great plain all round, nothing but plain to the horizon's bound. I must go on, naught else remained to do. So on I went. I think I never saw such starved ignoble nature. Nothing throve, for flowers as well expected cedar grove, but chortle and spurge according to their law, might propagate their kind with none to awe. You think a treasure trove, you think a bird had been a treasure trove. No penry inertness in grimace, in some strange sort were the land's portion. See or close your eyes, said Mr. Peevishly, and nothing skills, I can't help my case. 'Tis God's judgment, fireman's church place, house on its claws to set my prisoners free. If there pushed any ragged thistle stalk above its mates, its head was chopped. The bents were jealous else. What made the holes and rents and the dock's harsh shores leave? Bruised to walk all hope of greenness. 'Tis a brute must walk, passion their life with the brute's intents. As for the grass, it grew as scarce as hair and leprosy. Thin, dry blades pricked the mud which underneath was kneaded up with blood. One stiff, blind horse, his every bone a stare, stood stupefied however he came there, thrust out past service from the devil's stud. Alive, he might be dead for aught I know, with red gaunt and callop neck astrain, and shut eyes beneath the rusty mane. Seldom went such grotesqueness with such woe. I never saw a brute I hated so. He must have been wicked to deserve such pain. I shut my eyes and turned them on my heart, as a man calls for wine before fight. I asked for the draft of earlier, happier sights. Ere fitly I could hope to play the part. Think first, fight afterwards, a soldier's art. One taste of old times, that's all to rights. Not it. I fancied Cuthbert's reddening face beneath its garniture of curly gold. Dear fellow, till I almost felt him fold. An arm in mine to fix me to that place, that way he used. Alas, one night's disgrace. Oh, and my heart's new fire and left me cold. Giles then, the soul of honor, there he stands. Frank was 10 years ago and knighted first. An honest man should dare, he said he durst. Good with the scene shifts, fall with hangman's hand pinned to his breast a parchment. His own band reads it, poor traitor, and spit upon him cursed. Better this present than past like that. Back therefore to my darkening path. No sound, no sight as far as the eye can strain. Will the night send a howl or a bat, I asked, and something on the dismal flat came to arrest my thoughts and change their train. A sudden low river crossed my path, as unexpected as a serpent came. No tides congenial through the glooms. This is a froth bite, might have been a bath of the fiend's glowing hoof, to see the wrath with black eddies be spat with flakes and spoons. So petty yet so spiteful, all along low scrubby alders kneeled over it. Drenched willows flung them headlong with fit to out, the suicidal throng, the river which had done them all the wrong, whatever that was rolled by, deterred no whit. Which while I forded, good saints, how I feared to set my foot upon a dead man's cheek. Each step or field a spear I thrust to seek, for hollows tangled in his hair or beard. It may have been a water rat I speared, but ugh, it sounded like a baby shriek. Glad was I to reach the other bank, now for a better country. Vain presage, who were the strugglers? What war did they wage? Whose savage trample could thus pad the dank soil to a plash? Toads in a poison tank, or wild cats in a red-hot cage? The fight must so have seemed in that foul cirque. What penned them there with all the plain to choose? No footsteps leading to that horrid muse. None out of it, mad Bruins set to work their brains, no doubt, like galley slaves to turf pits for his pastime, Christians against Jews. And more than that, furlong on, why there, what bad use was that engine for? That wheel or brake, not wheel, that harrow fit to reel men's bodies out like silk, with all the air of Prophet's tool, on earth left unaware, brought to sharpen its rusty teeth of steel. Then came some stub ground, once a wood, next a marsh it would seem, now mere earth, desperate and done with so the fool finds mirth, makes a thing and mars it, till his mood changes and off he goes, within a rude bog, clay and marsh, sand and stark black dirt. Now blotches rankling colored gay and grim, now patches where some leanness of the soil's broken to mossy substances like boils. Then came a palsied oak, a cleft in him, a distorted mouth that splits his swim, gaping at death and dies while it recoils. As far as ever from the end, not in the distance but the evening not, to point my footsteps further at the thought, great black bird, Apollyon's bosom's friend, sailed past to meet his wide wings dragon pen, that brushed my cat, perchance the guide I sought. For looking up where I somehow grew, the plain had given place all round to mountains with such names to grace mere heights and heaps now stolen in view. How thus they surprised and salted you, how to get from there was no clear case. Yet half I seemed to recognize some trick of mischief had happened to me, God knows when, in a bad dream perhaps. Here ended then progress this way, when in the very nick of giving up one more time, it came and quick as when the shut trap shuts you in the den. Burningly it came upon me all at once. This was the place, those two hills crouched with the bowls like morning fight, while to the left a tall scalp mountain, Dunt's daughter a dozing at the very nuts after a lifetime of training for the sight. Not see what in the midst lay but the tower itself, a round squat turret, blind as a fool's heart, built of brown stone without a counterpart in the whole world. The tempest mocking out points to the ship and thus the unseen shelf he strikes on only when timbers start. Not see, because of night perhaps, why day came back for that. Behind it left the dying sunset, kindled through a cleft. The hills like two giants in a hunting way, chin upon hand to see the game at bay, now stab and end the creature to the half. Not here, when noise was everywhere told, increasing like a bell, names in my ears, of lost adventurers, my peers, how such was strong and such was bold, and such was fortunate, yet each of old, lost, one moment now the woe of years. There they stood, ranged along the hillside, met, view the last of me, a living frame, for one more picture in a sheet of flame. I saw them and knew them all, and yet, dauntless and stubborn to my lips I set to blue, child roll into a dark tower cave. That was Child Roll into a Dark Tower Cave. I memorized that's not my poem, that's a Robert Browning poem. I memorize long poems, and I'm not really a poet myself. I write poetry occasionally, not very often though. That was Robert Browning's Child Roll into a Dark Tower Cave. Morning. I'm doing good.